Governor's Council will come to order. Members are requested to take their seats. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Governor's Council chamber. The matter of Attorney Thomas Estes. Council sitting today to my far left, Eileen Duff of Gloucester. To her right, Caissie, Councilor Caissie from Oxford. To my immediate right, Councilor Cipollini from Marston Mills. To his right, Councilor Jubinville from Milton. And we are here to the matter of Thomas Estes. We'll read a correspondence from Governor Patrick. Dear Councilors, I am pleased to nominate Thomas H. Estes to the position of Associate Justice of the Northampton District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And if confirmed, Attorney Estes would take the position of the Honorable Richard J. Carey, position of the vacant since January 1st, 2011. With that introduction, the procedure of the council is to hear, then the tradition to hear from the witnesses first. And at some point I will swear them in, and then the nominee will be recognized in an opening statement. Members of the Governor's Council will then have questions for the nominee. We'll hear from those in favor, we'll hear from those opposed, and then at the conclusion we'll ask the nominee to make a final statement, closing statement, if you'd like. So with that, all of those who are going to testify, either in favor or in opposition, including the nominee, we'd ask to rise and take the oath to testify truthfully. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that your testimony here before the Governor's Council of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very good. Thank you very much. Be seated. By the way, just as a means of housekeeping, the governor will be coming in at about 5 to 12, so you'll notice me looking at the door. We may have to interrupt the hearing for His Excellency to come in. We'll have a brief assembly of the Governor's Council. The Council will act on some matters, and then we will reconvene. We'd ask everybody just to remain seated. There's no need to leave the room. It should not be a very long assembly by the Governor. All right, so the first witness, Alan Rubin, Attorney in Charge, Northampton Superior Court Office for CPCS. Attorney Rubin, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, councilors. You know, my name is Alan Rubin. I'm the supervising attorney of the Northampton Superior Court Office for CPCS. It's a small office. There are 3 attorneys and 2 support staff. And back in 2002, I had a vacancy in my office, and obviously, particularly in a small office, you want to have people who are not only very capable lawyers, but people you could work well with. And I received a resume from Thomas Estes. Can't tell much from the resume, didn't know him personally. But within a very quick period of time, in my first interview, I realized that this was a man who was not only a fine lawyer, who would be someone who would be excellent to work with and be a wonderful representative for our clients. And in the 12 years since, I have no reason at all to doubt the decision to hire Thomas to work in my office. We work together closely in a small office. You get to know each other very well. Get to know what a wonderful husband he is to Kristen and father to Noah and Caissie, his children. Also know what he thinks about. You know, we're all advocates in court, but when we're discussing cases between ourselves, I know that he has a very good, broad-minded perspective and is very realistic about our clients and about cases. These are things that will surely serve him well on the bench. After several years, they opened the district court office next door. Thomas was the logical choice to head that office. And in the intervening years, 8 years now, I guess, we've been working as peers, and I've seen him be a wonderful administrator and a great mentor to the many young attorneys who've gone through that office, a couple of whom are here today. I think in the years that Thomas has been in Northampton, and we cover both Hampshire County and Franklin County, Thomas has been well respected and accepted throughout the criminal justice system, and I think it's significant that we're here today, though Thomas has spent his career as a public defender, that we have Honorable David Sullivan, the District Attorney of the Northwestern District, here to testify on his behalf, and also I understand a letter from Sheriff Garvey representing law enforcement to show that all sides recognize, even though that Thomas has been an advocate, he is fair and even in understanding. And I'd suggest, of all the attributes I've known Thomas over the years, the one that I think will serve him the best as a judge, will serve the community best with him as a judge, is he realizes, it may be obvious, but sometimes does get lost, that everyone appearing in front of him, in criminal or civil, either side, defendants, victims, officers, are human beings. They're people, often in periods of crisis or dealing with issues of great concern to them. He realizes that they all want to prevail, but that they can't. Usually one side or the other wins, or there's a compromise of some sort. But he realizes that even win or lose, what people want is respect and understanding. And Thomas is always respectful of people. He's balanced. He's even-handed. He's fair. He treats people with respect and dignity. And I think that people who appear in front of him, win or lose, will come away feeling respected, feeling that they were treated fairly, and they will realize that justice has prevailed. So I think Thomas will be a superb judge, as good a judge as he has been a co-worker. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Any questions from the council? Thank you. Councilor Jubinville.
Yeah, how long have you been practicing?
42 years?
Now, I remember you from the old BMC days.
That's correct.
Now, tell me, how did you come back to
They opened an office in Northampton. We hadn't had a PCS. Then it was Mass Offenders Organized, it was PCS then. Office out in the West, and I thought it would be a nice place to live, and I've been very happy ever since.
And where do you live now?
Amherst.
You go to school out there?
What? Sorry?
You go to school out there?
No.
And you have been a zealous advocate all your career.
I hope so.
And I'm amazed that you haven't applied for judge.
Thank you very much, sir. But I like being an
Last
advocate.
question I'll ask you, now that Mr. Estes has become judge, is there an opening there?
Well, it's complicated. I'm going to be running both offices.
So I'm from Hoyle, originally, and grew up in
Wow.
parts of Northampton. So is there an opening, you think?
Oh, there will be an opening. I'm a supervisor.
Go back out there and enjoy myself.
You
Now,
should.
basically, the governor's council will take care of it.
It's a wonderful area.
I think he wants to hire somebody with experience in defense work. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
Are you completed your inquiry?
After that,
Thank you. Attorney Group, I just want, I've been asking people out in Hampshire County, what makes the nominee a good fit? Because that's kind of a unique court out there. You have a unique district attorney, a unique sheriff, and unique demographics. And what makes him a good fit for the Northampton District
Well,
Court?
he's unique in his own way, so I think that's true. But what I think makes a good fit is what I said earlier, the fact that the district attorney is here, the sheriff has written on his behalf. It's fair to say when other attorneys from other parts of the state come out, and this is looking on the criminal side of things, that people are routine and have been throughout all the district attorneys have been in office in the years I've been out there, 26 years now, that they feel that we have a collegiality, that we are very, we do our jobs, we're all advocates, but that we do it with respect. That's very much a part of the practice in Northampton. It isn't cutthroat. We obviously have our disagreements, sometimes serious ones, but we remain able to be on friendly terms, and Thomas is a classic example of that type of attorney and will be that type of judge.
Very good. Thank you very much.
one other thing.
Yes.
And do you think he'll follow in the footsteps of the great chief judge from Northampton Court of
Which judge will I actually?
the last one?
Yes, I think so. Maybe not as good a poet, but
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
The next witness is the Honorable Jennifer Ginsburg from the Worcester District Court. Your Honor, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so my name is Jennifer Ginsburg, and I'm a district court judge in Worcester. I've had that position, been lucky enough to have that position for the past year and a half. And I'm here to support my friend and former colleague, Thomas Estes. We worked together in the public defender's office for about 10 years. And even though Thomas and I worked in different counties, we, from the minute he came to work in the office, we were fast friends, and we talked often over the years and consulted over the years many times about cases and controversies and issues in the office. And I have no doubt that Thomas would be a great judge. To me, there's no doubt in my mind that he's qualified based on his work history. He's an accomplished and well-respected trial attorney, both in the district court and superior court, and he's done that for years and years. And I've always known him to be knowledgeable on the law and the practice and procedure of court. I've been involved in numerous meetings with Thomas over the years with a lot of talented and knowledgeable attorneys, and Thomas was often the one to clarify a legal issue or an approach to a problem or a conflict. He had a very common sense approach to things. He has been a role model for numerous lawyers in the field, and he's been very generous with his time, helping new lawyers and training new lawyers to become good trial lawyers. Most significant to me about Thomas for this position is that he has a very good understanding of people and their different perspectives and interests in issues and cases. And I think when we talked about cases or issues or conflicts, he was always quick to come up with a reasonable, common sense approach to issues that really take into consideration people's feelings and perspectives and their interests. He's a true people person, and I think that's really an essential element of a good district court judge. He has a great disposition, I think, to be a district court judge. He has a very balanced approach to life and to work. I've never seen him overwhelmed or flustered with his many responsibilities. He is very committed to his work. I know that. I've seen that many, many times over the years. And he's very committed also to his family. We're here today, of course, on his behalf. And I've heard him talk so much about them over the years. And I think that balanced approach to his life would serve him very well as a judge, to have a clear perspective and a balanced approach to his work. Thomas has a great upbeat, can-do attitude, and I think that would really serve him well on the district court bench. He would show up every day, as he has, as I understand, in the public defender's office, with a smile on his face and ready to face all the cases that come before him. And I think that positive enthusiasm would really affect everybody who comes in front of him and would serve him very well on the district court bench. So I support him wholeheartedly, and I hope that you do the same.
Thank you, Your Honor. Counsel Caissie
Yes,
from
thank you.
Oxford.
Judge, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
It's great to see you. What an asset to Worcester County. Judge Ginsburg has been, she's been on for a year and a half already. I can't believe it. She received a unanimous vote from this council, so despite what some of the critics say about the council, we obviously get it right sometimes. And, some nominees may say you're brave to come back. If you never have to come back again,
I was a little
crazy
nervous,
to
I
come
have to
back
say.
in. But you had a great hearing because you were a great nominee, and we're thrilled to have you, and it's so nice to see you today. Thank you for coming in. Your testimony means a great deal to me. Thank you.
Counsel Jubinville.
Tell me about Mr. Estes' patience.
Oh, he is very patient. He is very patient. As I said, I've never seen him frustrated or aggravated, and I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure it's happened, but in talking to him many, many times over the years about difficult, challenging cases or even personnel issues in the office, he's had to deal with that for the past, 8 or so years since he's been the head of the Northampton District Court office. And those situations can be trying and difficult. And we talked about those numerous times, and we would often consult with each other, and I found him to be remarkably patient and understanding and compassionate when he dealt with people.
Thank you very much. And how's your father?
He's doing great. Thank you. I will.
Anything else? Your Honor, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
The next witness is Attorney Lisa Lupiella. Did I get that right?
You did.
I should get that right, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. You know, I was thinking, I was saying, this must be so great for him to sit here and listen to everybody say such nice things about him.
We haven't got the gavel yet.
There you go. So my name is Lisa Lupiello. I'm a partner at Burroughs Weiss, Minson Lupiello in Northampton. And I am so honored to be here for Thomas today. I mean, I can't even say, I was so taken back when he asked me if I would come and speak, and I'm just thrilled. If the council thinks that they've made a right choice or might have made a right choice, just wait. You're really going to be amazed at what he can do. I can't wait to see it myself. I too met Thomas in 2006 when he was the director of CPCS in the Northampton office. Several of the directors and he were interviewing me for a staff attorney position. Actually, I believe Honorable Jennifer Ginsburg was there as well. I remember that the interview took place in Worcester. And my background is in law enforcement, and I'll get to that in a moment. But when I walked in the interview thinking, there's no way they're ever going to want me to be in the public defender's office because my ideology is, I'm sure, very, very different from the classic public defender. So the first thing I said when I walked in there was just that. Because don't make me sit here for an hour and a half if this is just like a joke. They're like, no. And they started laughing. They said, no, we're sure it's exactly the way, you think of it, we're sure we think of it the same way. This is not just all, damn, get the prisoner out of jail. It's about what's fair. And I knew when I left that interview that not only did I want to work for that organization, but I needed to work for Thomas. I knew that. I knew that he was the person I wanted to be mentored by, to be a better lawyer, but also to be a better person. And I was so right. He knew how to motivate us at the office, the attorneys. He knew exactly what would keep us thinking and keeping us engaged. Thomas and I would review my cases on a bicycle. We would go on a lunch break, and we would go ride throughout Hampshire County, endless hills, I can't tell you. Endless hills, and we would crunch my cases. And we would spend an hour and a half out, and when I got back, I was so rejuvenated. I just knew exactly what I had to do. This is the kind of person he is. He's a motivator, he's innovative, he gets people thinking to their best. He realized that my passion for writing would bring out the best in me as a lawyer. He is the kind of educator that I believe that the bench would really benefit from. So during my career with the NYPD, I am a retired New York City police lieutenant. I was there for about 15 years, and I retired after 2011. During my tenure with the NYPD, had I known Thomas then, I truly believe that I would have been a better commanding officer. The way that he inspires people and gets people to do the right thing. And not because he's feared, but because he's loved. He's really loved by so many people. After the tragedy that struck our nation and the New York City Police Department specifically on September 11th of 2001, I had become committed to reassessing choices that I had made in my life. I reflected on my public service, and I reflected on how close I was to ground zero and the work that I had to do with the attack's aftermath. And I gained a perspective on the fragility of life. And although that experience gave me a unique perspective, which is particularly useful in my law practice today, it's not the only factor. In our lives, we meet people along the way that strike a chord in us. Something that's often indescribable, but yet you recognize its importance. And Thomas is one of those people who really touches you inside. He's not just a great lawyer, a great leader, a great colleague, but he's a great man. He has integrity beyond reproach. He's diplomatic, inspiring, fun-loving, positive, and endlessly patient. I practiced in all the Western Massachusetts district and superior courthouses, and by way of comparison, having appeared before many judges in New York City, testifying in my role as a law enforcement officer, I can honestly say that we have an amazing group of judges in Western Massachusetts. The vast majority of them are caring, empathetic, kind, and fair, and our Commonwealth would be fortunate and deeply rewarded to add Thomas to the bench. His common sense and fair judgment, human kindness are exactly what the sitting judges will need, what the attorneys who appeal before him will need, and what the citizens of the Commonwealth entering our court system for the first time will need. He is a fantastic choice. Again, I'm so honored to be here. I think that he'll be my favorite judge out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get to any questions, we're joined by Councilor Marilyn and Devaney of Watertown. Morning.
I want to apologize to Judge Ginsburg and Attorney Workman and to you. Councilor
With the yellow.
Shame on me, the fatty, I can't. But I was a little slow walking this morning, with staff, so I apologize.
Questions for the attorney? Councilor Duff.
What kind of law do you practice now?
I do criminal defense still, discrimination cases, sexual harassment, and civil rights. And some civil rights things pending in the federal district court.
Councilor Jubinville.
What judge are here to the Northampton?
Well, you don't have enough time for that.
Are you from Massachusetts?
I'm not at all. During my retirement, I was thinking about what the next thing to do is. I had left a pre-med school program to join the police department when I was younger. So after retirement, I thought that was what I should go do, and I went back to go do that and thought, oh, this is so wrong. The law was really what I was in love with. And so I looked for law schools and fell in love with Western Massachusetts. It was easy. It was easy. Western New England School of Law. Yes. And then stayed. And I was first going to go down to the Springfield office at CPCS, and then when I was interviewing in Worcester, and Thomas was there, I actually called Governor Anthony Benedetti at the time, the one before that. Bill Leahy. I gave him a call. I said, no, I really want to go to Northampton. And he's like, well, we don't know if we could change it. I said, well, and I really put my neck out there because I said, well, that's the only place I want now. And they put me there, fortunately.
Did you ever go to Joe's restaurant?
Joe's?
Yeah.
Given your unique experiences, do you have an opinion on stop and frisk policy in New York City?
You know what? I've been reading about that. Well, I remember when I was in the police department.
Were you there with Brad?
Yes. That was what we thought at the time, before I actually really read the Constitution. Is what we thought would basically save us. You could just stop anybody, right, and do that. And then the more litigation came. And, I think it's hard now to ask me that, because now as a lawyer I look at things a lot differently than I did as a police officer. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for the mayor of New York?
Yeah, it's not a good policy. It's not a good policy. I think he's going to get very far with it. I mean, but it's like anything else. When I was working as an officer under Giuliani, the big issue was just get all the squeegee people off the street. Once you get them off the street, you can run all their warrants, and then you pick them up, and that's, it has a ripple effect. But I think that the respect was lost, and I'm usually one for respect first.
You've been very close to Northampton. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next witness is the Honorable David Sullivan, District Attorney for the Northwestern District.
Morning, Councilors.
Are you sure you want to testify, given your track record of endorsements of this? Are you sure you want to testify for the nominee?
I'm very honored to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Tom Estes, who I think is a really wise choice by the governor, and hopefully will passed through your council with scrutiny and with approval. I've known Thomas for about 10 years, and both when I was the Register of Probate and also as the district attorney for the past 3 years. My district attorney district encompasses Hampshire and Franklin County and the Worcester town of Athol. And this appointment is probably one of the most significant appointments for our district. Northampton has been the county seat for over 300 years, and the tradition of excellence in the judiciary goes far back, but most recently Luke Ryan, Albertus J. Morse, Michael Ryan, and Judge Carey. All four distinguished themselves as being fair, being just, and also by being innovators in the court system. And I want to touch upon the fact that the district court justice will not only be responsible for being fair and just in the courtroom, but to be a justice leader in the community, somebody who thinks outside of the box, a person that cares about the root causes of crime, substance abuse, mental health. Do they want to reach out to those groups to make a difference and to work with the community? And I think that Thomas Estes is the perfect fit for community justice for Northampton and Hampshire County because he understands the root causes of crime. He can work with various parts of the community, law enforcement, the judiciary, community groups, to really make a difference. And that's what we're looking for, I think, in our judges today. Not just that they have the integrity and the experience to lead that court, but also to be able to listen to the people in the community to make sure that the justice that they dispense meets the needs of the community. So I think Thomas is a perfect fit. His reputation for fairness and integrity goes far beyond just Hampshire County. I think you've heard today from a few different folks that have indicated that he has a reputation that precedes him. He also has what I think is very important in a judge. He has an ability to be humble, to listen, and to be fair. I think the demeanor on the district court bench is so important. We can have the brightest person in the world. They can be a Rhodes Scholar, but they aren't always fit to be a district court judge because they don't have the demeanor. They don't have that humility and that ability to listen. And what Thomas brings to the bench will be those qualities that I think are so important. And to be able to treat each and every case individually. To be able to walk onto that bench every day and be fresh. And to be able to listen and make that decision based upon what's in front of him for that day and the evidence that's before him. Our prosecutors only look for a fair playing field. The public defenders and bar advocates only look for a fair playing field. And Thomas will provide that fair playing field so that all parties are heard and that justice is dispensed in a fair way. We have one thing in common, Thomas and I, and that is to do justice every day, to make sure that we are fair and we approach each case as an individual case. And I think that what Thomas will bring to that bench will be that ability to move cases forward, but not in such a rapid way that they aren't treated individually and fairly. And so that's really a summary of why I'm here today. I think Councilor Albano really brought up a good point that Hampshire and Franklin County are unique bars. They're very collegial bars. We work together. We fight in court. We really advocate strongly for our positions, but when we walk out of court, we respect each other. And that's really the best thing that I can think of as far as Thomas Estes. People respect him because he's collegial, he's a good advocate, but he's always fair. And for those reasons, I'd ask that you approve his nomination by Governor Deval Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, any questions for the DA? Councilor Jubinville.
You've been an outspoken advocate of this terrible epidemic that we're also in. So many times in court I see judges that really young addictions, and they seem to be not helped by problems in this situation. What's your thoughts on this nominee with regard to understanding addictions and stuff?
90% of our jails, 90% of our cases are substance abuse or mental health. And the opioid addiction epidemic that started with OxyContin has moved to heroin addiction, faces every district court judge, and Thomas understands that. He works with people with substance abuse issues every day. And what we hope to work with, we have an opioid task force in our district that encompasses the medical community and legal community, social services, and is to be able to help people with these addictions without incarcerating them. And certainly, as a district court judge, I think that Mr. Estes will be involved in the solution as opposed to just the problem solving by putting people in jail. And if we can prevent crime, it's really by dealing with substance abuse, and I think he'll be a great partner for the justice system in that respect.
Mr. Attorney, we have a letter here from Sheriff Darby, and I know he was going to be one of the witnesses, and I'm not going to read the letter, just note it for the record, but I know you have a close working relationship with the sheriff. Would you like to perhaps offer his perspective briefly on this nominee and how he worked with those defendants with your office relative to incarceration and rehabilitation?
Sheriff Garvey has been a leader in the correctional field for 25 years. He's an outstanding sheriff that understands that every person who comes to his facility will come back into the community. And he's done a tremendous amount of work with the community, with our office, and with the judiciary to make sure that reentry programs start from day one. And so he works on substance abuse, mental health issues. He really gets it, and he's endorsing Thomas for a very good reason. He knows that as the district court judge, when he sends people, unfortunately, that have to be incarcerated, that they have every opportunity in the world to change, and that those recommendations for any amount of incarceration will be met with humanity and will also work toward change. And I think that Sheriff Garvey, as a leader, he was actually the National Sheriff of the Year in 2006 among all the thousands of sheriffs. And I think it's really a testament that he's written on behalf of Thomas Estes to say that here's a person that I want to partner with in the justice system and to really make changes for the long run for every defendant that goes to jail.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Counsel Devaney.
Thank you. Your testimony was very meaningful. I've been in touch with over the years with a lot of the police chiefs in your county and surrounding counties, and they have been very, very concerned about the repeat drunk drivers. And one judge in particular I will mention that they collectively have written a letter about him because he is very soft on allowing these repeat drunk drivers to be on the road, and I just was wondering if you've been involved in any
Yes, in fact, when the Globe was doing their series, we provided all the data to show what the drunk driving conviction rate was. And in our district, we demystified it. It's an 87% conviction rate when you take pleas and you take bench trials and you take jury trials together. And so we kind of demystified that so many of these repeat offenders were getting off. In fact, for our repeat offenders, I think it was over 90% of the repeat offenders were being successfully prosecuted. So we've also worked on our problem. And the problem was that young assistant district attorneys didn't have the training or experience to go up against attorneys that maybe had 20 or 30 years experience. So we put a lot of resources into making sure that all our young assistant district attorneys that are at the front line can successfully prosecute these cases. And we've really seen the results that more of these cases are being successfully prosecuted.
Well, we've been in touch with these police chiefs. They were very, very frustrated, and I'll tell you the name, Judge Marilyn, and he had 47 bench trials and of repeat drug drivers, and he found 7 guilty. And that's very disturbing to police chiefs and people in your district and other counties. So that's something that I'm very concerned about, in a judge, and to see their position on these repeat drug drivers and how they would handle these cases. So I'm glad that you're involved in that.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses here in favor? Any other witnesses in favor of the nominee? Kindly come forward. Hearing none, I'm going to note 2 letters in favor, one from Bertha Josephson, Superior Court Justice, and also Frank Flannery, first assistant district attorney in Hampden County. With that, anyone here in opposition to the nomination? Taking anyone here in opposition to the nomination, kindly come forward and state your opposition. Hearing none, we'll close that part of the hearing. At this point, we'll turn the hearing over to the nominee, Attorney Estes, and before maybe we get started, if you want to introduce those who are here in support of your nomination, and not witnesses, this would be an appropriate time to do that.
Thank you, Counselor. First, I would like to introduce my I need just a second. Thank you. First, I'd like to introduce my wife, Kristen Edmonds. My two sons, Caissie and Ianella, are here. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law, Terrence Edmonds and Donald Snodgrass, are here. An attorney who actually started at the same time as Attorney Ricciello, Kirk Connor, who is still with my office, took a personal day and made the trip to be here. I'm touched. Thanks, everyone.
Very good. Well, the floor is yours, Attorney Estes, and for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Albano. First, I would like to thank Governor Deval Patrick for nominating me to the position of Associate Justice of the Northampton District Court. It is one of the greatest honors of my life to be nominated for this position. I would also like to thank you, the members of the Governor's Council, for your time and consideration. It is a privilege to appear before you. Finally, I would like to thank my witnesses who so graciously agreed to take time out of their lives and come here today to speak on my behalf. It was amazing and indeed humbling to sit here and listen to their kind and heartfelt words. I simply cannot thank them enough. I am the oldest of 4 children, and I grew up in Virginia. I spent part of my childhood in urban northern Virginia and part in rural Stony Point, which is a small place on the map outside of Charlottesville. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and I split my time between the two. My father was a professor of reading education at the University of Virginia, and my mother was a guidance counselor, a high school guidance counselor in Northern Virginia. Perhaps not surprisingly, for undergrad, I attended the University of Virginia. Less predictably, after college, I bought a one-way ticket to Taipei, Taiwan, hoping to secure employment teaching English. Luckily, it all worked out, and I lived and worked in Taipei for about a year. It was the experience of a lifetime. When I returned to the United States, I landed in Boston, and I began working as a paralegal, where I primarily focused on large class action suits involving asbestos litigation. After 3 years, I moved back to Virginia to attend law school at William & Mary. This is where I met my wife, Kristen Edmonds, who was studying for a master's degree in American Studies. After law school, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I began my legal career as a patent litigator at the mid-sized firm of Olaf & Berridge. The work was financially rewarding, but left me wanting more. As fate would have it, my roommate was a public defender. After months of listening to him talk about his work and the difference he was making in the lives of his clients, I realized that I needed to change. I needed a job where I felt like I was making a difference in the world. On August 10th, 1998, I started working as a public defender in Fairfax, Virginia, and I never looked back. I just loved it. After 4 years as a public defender in Fairfax, I moved to Northampton, where I had the good fortune to work as a staff attorney for Alan Rubin in the Northampton CPCS Superior Court office. Over the next 4 years, I defended hundreds of poor people charged with serious felonies. It was a great job working for a great boss. In 2006, CPCS opened the Northampton District Court office, and I became the attorney in charge. It was simply phenomenal to be the leader of an office at its inception. I was involved in the hiring, choosing the location, and deciding just how the office would work. I have truly enjoyed running the office, and I am proud of its reputation and the good it does for my community. I want to be a judge for many of the same reasons I love being a public defender. I want to help people and to make sure that our judicial system works as fairly as possible. I believe that I'm highly qualified to be an Associate Justice of the Northampton District Court. As a public defender, particularly as the attorney in charge of the CPCS Northampton District Court office, I have developed a thorough understanding of how this district court works or functions day to day. I know the personnel, and I appreciate the relationships between the various stakeholders in the system. I'm extremely familiar with the rules of criminal procedure, the rules of evidence, and how to conduct a trial. While my civil background is limited, with my extensive litigation experience, I feel that I'm well prepared for the challenge of mastering a new area of the law, and I'm eager to do so. I also have the maturity and the temperament to be a judge. Finally, I simply love living in Northampton. District Court is a community court, and it would be an honor to serve my community as a judge. For all these reasons, I ask that you confirm my nomination, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Terrence. All right. Counselor Cipollini.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I reviewed your judicial nomination dated January 15th from Governor Patrick and Vice Consent from the Governor's Council, and for your confirmation position of Associate Justice of the Northampton District Court, and now I have some questions. I went over your applications and is a very prominent, prestigious school, and that's quite an honor. I think that itself. Can you tell us a little bit about this? You were recipient of the Cambria Professionalism Award as attorney in charge of the CPS District Court Office.
That was an award from law school.
You still law school?
Yes, and it was after, if memory serves, it was after our first year of law school, and the nomination arose because of the role that I played in a legal skills class that I had, and there was another law student in that class who felt like my contribution to the class and my willingness to help other students was exemplary, and he nominated me. It came as a complete surprise, came completely out of the dark for me, and I was delighted to receive it.
How many people received this award?
I believe there were about 10 of us. There was a little luncheon. I think I still have the plaque somewhere, but it was quite some time ago.
Okay. Going on, you mentioned that you represented two defendants in CPCS District Court office facing the possibility of jail, time in the district and Superior Courts. You also supervised 6 attorneys, an investigator, and social worker as an administrative assistant.
Yes.
You did a public defender. I'm going, but I had to add a year because your resume is like a year old, application year old. 11 years as a public defender.
No, so it would be since 1998, so 16 years.
1998, 16 years. Like you said, you spent first part of your legal career in Virginia. You were a patent litigator in Alexandria, Virginia. You applied for judicial office here in 2007 and 2011, and you were not recommended by the JNC. Why do you feel this is the time to be a judge in Northampton?
I feel like the district court in particular is the perfect fit for me. Having worked so intimately in the district court since 2006 and going into the district court as an extremely experienced litigator, I feel like I was able, and having the job to train new attorneys, I felt like I truly had to master the rules of procedure, the rules of evidence. I mean, to be able to teach, you really have to have a deep understanding of an area. And I had to develop that very deep understanding of the district court starting in 2006. And I think that has put me in a position today where I really and truly have the experience to be a district court judge. And I think also I'm a little older, a little more mature. I think I have the maturity and the temperament today to be a judge.
You do teach at CPCS.
Yes, I routinely teach at. We have a robust training program, and I'm routinely asked to attend and train.
So what kind of classes do you teach at
Well,
CPCS?
2 years ago, I went. Actually, we have a month of training, new lawyer training, and they asked me to be faculty for the entire month, and so I trained brand new law grads in every aspect of criminal defense, from arraignment through post-conviction relief. So really, that training really went from the beginning to the end. Over the years, I've lectured on the first complaint doctrine, though that was some time ago, and I also taught there was a joint prosecutor and public defender evidence training program at Suffolk, and I attended 1 year and then was asked to be faculty the following year, and I think I was faculty for 6 years, 5 or 6 years. It's in my application.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Cipollini.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. Well, I reviewed the judicial nomination dated January 15th from Patrick, advice and consent from the Governor's Council, and for your confirmation of the position of Associate Justice in the Northampton District Court, and now I have some questions. I went over your application and questionnaire just got this morning. And I've noticed that a lot of distinctions with your resume. I mean, everybody knows that William & Mary School of Law, and William & Mary in itself is a very prominent, prestigious school, and that's quite an honor. I think that itself. Can you tell us a little bit about this? You were recipient of the Cambria Professionalism Award as attorney in charge of the CPS District Court Office.
That was an award from law school.
From law school?
Yes. And it was after, if memory serves, it was after our first year of law school. And the nomination arose because of the role that I played in a legal skills class that I had. And there was another law student in that class who felt like my contribution to the class and my willingness to help other students was exemplary, and he nominated me. It came as a complete surprise, came completely out of the dark for me, and I was delighted to receive it.
How many people received this award?
I believe there were about 10 of us. There was a little luncheon. I think I still have the plaque somewhere, but it was quite some time ago.
Okay. Going on, you mentioned that you represented two defendants in CPCS District Court office facing the possibility of jail, time in the district and Superior Court. She also supervised 6 attorneys, an investigator, and social worker as an administrative assistant.
Yes.
You've been a public defender. I'm going, but I had to add a year because your resume is like a year old. Application year old. 11 years as a public defender.
No, so it would be since 1998, so 16 years.
1998, 16 years. Like you said, you spent the first part of your legal career in Virginia. You were a patent litigator in Alexandria, Virginia. You applied for judicial office here in 2007 and 2011, and you were not recommended by the JNC. Why do you feel this is the time to be a judge in Northampton?
I feel like the district court in particular is the perfect fit for me, having worked so intimately in the district court since 2006, and going into the district court as an extremely experienced litigator. I feel like I was able, and having the job to train new attorneys, I felt like I truly had to master the rules of procedure, the rules of evidence. I mean, to be able to teach, you really have to have a deep understanding of an area. And I had to develop that very deep understanding of the district court starting in 2006. And I think that has put me in a position today where I really and truly have the experience to be a district court judge. And I think also I'm a little older, a little more mature. I think I have the maturity and the temperament today to be a judge.
You do teach at CPCS.
Yes, I routinely teach at. We have we have a robust training program, and I'm routinely asked to attend and train.
So what kind of classes do you teach at
Well,
CPCS?
2 years ago, I went. Actually, we have a month of training, new lawyer training, and they asked me to be faculty for the entire month, and so I trained brand new law grads in every aspect of criminal defense, from arraignment through post-conviction relief. So really, that training really went from the beginning to the end. Over the years, I've lectured on the first complaint doctrine, though that was some time ago, and I also taught there was a joint prosecutor and public defender evidence training program at Suffolk, and I attended 1 year and then was asked to be faculty the following year, and I think I was faculty for 6 years, 5 or 6 years. It's in my application.
Thank you. I was very interested why you specified that you evolved in your life, and I'll read part of this, that you evolved in your life and you coming from the South, you changed the way you feel about things and different kind of issues you might have had back down there. Back south, you changed and evolved and respect and rethink the way you believe when you lived down south. You say that conflict is just core qualities most important to a judge. And you have a diverse range, and the question asked, you have a diverse range of interests, personal perspectives, and life experiences adds to the judicial mix. And the question was asked, what are those? And you go on to say, I grew up in Central Virginia in a segregated environment, one in which racism, homophobic, and sexist attitudes were the norm. My life today is very different. First, I left the place. Later, I left the thinking. First, I left the place. Later, I left the thinking. It was very interesting. That was thoroughly, I thought about that, and it was almost like a stop. I mean, it was like, made you think about, you reflect on your own life that way. And so it was very interesting when you put that. You went on to say, living in an Asian, no, I'm going to read this whole thing, let's take excerpts from the statement. Living in an Asian grain in a deep appreciation for the standard of living I have enjoyed for the benefits of constitutional protections. I witnessed extreme poverty as well as the effects of powerful and intrusive government. And I want to really reflect on that very often. You also mentioned that the relationships that I have developed have changed my attitude toward race, gender, and sexual orientation. I feel in love with and married to a woman of mixed race. And you say, in relationship with my brother-in-law has raised my awareness of issues also. And you mentioned his orientation. And you also mentioned, I grew up in Virginia in communities that were segregated then and are segregated today, both by choice and by opportunity. So in other words, you evolved in the way you think about people and different race issues and diversity issues. You feel that the greatest challenge of the courts is that Northampton District Court had a recent loss of leadership in the probation department after the year-long battle with cancer chief probation officer left. And you feel that probation officers are dispensing an enormous amount of information to the judge and help him make the decision. Can you explain a little bit on those things? First, your race evolution, the racial belief system evolution, and then how you feel about the different departments in a district court, how they mix and make the court work together. Let's take the first one. Why do you feel about the evolution of your belief system on racial issues?
Well, I think what I would say is, growing up, for me, I had some difficulties in my childhood, and I moved from my mother's house to my father's house when I was 14, and a lot going on growing up. And I wasn't really looking outward. I feel like I was really looking inward and trying to get through this period as best I could and be as happy as I could. But I really wasn't looking much beyond sort of what was in front of me. And while I would hear racist jokes Certainly my high school was segregated. Certainly would hear homophobic jokes. They weren't things that that I ever took to heart. They were just part of the background, if you will. It was just part of the noise of my childhood. And when I graduated from college, I think what I really wanted to do, and it sounds maybe a little corny, but was to find myself. And I left everything that I knew, and I went 12 time zones away. And as an adult now, looking back on that decision when I was 22 years old, I don't think it's a coincidence that I went that far away. And that's what I meant when I said first I left the place. I went to a place that could not possibly have been more different from rural Virginia, or Virginia, period. And that just made me realize, and as it's reflected in my application, that I was taking a lot of things for granted in life. I just didn't realize the privileged position that I had in the world. And as I slowly came to know my privileged position as a white male in American society. And I think slowly but surely, as I matured and as I continued my education, I came to understand and really think about what is my position? This isn't just background noise. These are actual words that people are saying. And what effect do those words have? And what effect do my words have? And we make choices in life. And it taught me to be much more proactive about who I am as a person. And then I fell in love with a woman of mixed race, and her brother is gay. And so now I'm really thinking about these things. And it changed me. I think life changes you. And I think I just became a more active thinker and a more active person.
It was interesting that you mentioned that, because I know that a lot of people, I feel that a lot of people go to different ends, extremes of the world to change their life, or they rethink their life. There's such a storm to, I'm from the Cape, so a lot of people come to the Cape, from the Hyannis, or mid-Cape, or Province. And a lot of people go to the other.
We're staying in recess for a few moments. Cipollini will continue his question. Before that, it's always nice to have the governor come in and testify on your behalf. I mean, Council's support for you.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
Council Cipollini.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to go on to say that I've noticed that a lot of times people, just to recollect or to just get themselves back in order, they go to the extremes of the United States. They go to the Cape, or they go to San Francisco, or wherever it might be. So I was sort of relating that to what you wrote here. It was very interesting. But probably the most important question I can ask you is, and you know from the heart, why you feel that it's time. You mentioned it sort of that it's time. But what makes you uniquely qualified for this position in this report?
Well, as I said in my opening statement, I want to be a judge for a lot of the same reasons that I have loved being a public defender. And it's because I think that I can make a difference in people's lives. And I think that being kind and being patient and making sure that people feel that they were heard in the district court makes all the difference in the world to people. And it certainly has made a difference to my clients over the years, the times where they felt like they had a fair shake in the system. It just changes people's attitudes. And I think as a judge, I would have the ability to touch so many more lives. And that fundamentally is why I want to be a judge.
One objection, Council Caissie would like to go next. No objection. Council Caissie?
I just got a real estate person in 2 o'clock, and I don't know how long this is going to be. So if I leave early, nobody's bored me or said anything. Make me think you want to part of private practice I take on a daily basis. So I appreciate that, and Council Jubinville for yielding the board. I do have some questions, and I am impressed. I'll just start by saying that you're a real practitioner. You've been in the courts, that you've been nominated to be a judge, and we don't always see that with nominees. Sometimes people are nominated for courts that they've never seen the inside of or haven't really practiced. And that's not an issue with your candidacy. Clearly, you've got a practitioner or that you've been nominated to on a daily basis, courtroom experience, your witnesses touched upon that trial experience. So I guess one of the questions that I asked Attorney Shea, now confirmed to be Judge Shea last week, was whether or not he as an ADA had lost motions to suppress. And I liked his answer, and I guess have you won motions to suppress as a defense attorney?
Yes.
And how frequently would you say, do you have a percentage you could give us?
I would say winning a motion to suppress is harder to do than winning a trial. It's pretty rare.
But you have one.
Oh, yes.
And his answer was that he had lost them as an ADA, which I thought was a great answer because you should win them every once in a while as defense counsel. And I think that there are some judges on the district court benches, or Superior Court too, who it's just not fair to anybody when you walk in and you see who's presiding and you know that you're going down in flames on a motion to suppress. And it should never be that way. Everybody should get a fair shake. So it was encouraging to hear his response that he lost them. And he said, not too infrequently. And that you've won. And clearly you're coming from a different background where you believe that people should win motions to suppress when they're valid.
Absolutely.
Now, I guess turning that point around, coming from a purely public defender viewpoint, how are you going to put yourself in that neutral person position where you can't give hints to young public defenders, and you really, you shouldn't be leaning too hard on the Commonwealth. How are you going to walk that fine line or discipline yourself to do that? How will you prepare yourself?
Well, actually, I think that my view of what a good district court judge does is, for lack of a better analogy and stealing from Chief Justice Roberts, is that my job is to call balls and strikes. I'm not a litigant. And that's one of the things I have to give up to be a judge. And there's no giving hints to anybody at a motion to suppress or a trial. I've been told by judges that actually it can be a very painful experience when the lawyers are not doing maybe what their job is. But that's part of being a district court judge. My job is not to raise the issues or give hints. It's to apply the facts to the law and be as fair as possible.
The only Republican on this council, I appreciate you quoting Justice Roberts. You had me at Justice Roberts. No. You mentioned that you know how the court works, the court that you've been nominated to serve, and you understand the people in the process. What would you do, if anything? Because no courthouse is perfect. Are there any ideas or changes or suggested changes that you would make if you are confirmed with respect to the courthouse that you would be sitting in?
I don't know that I would make a lot of changes. We have a new chief probation officer, Jane Pendergast. I certainly, as a judge, would want, I've known her for years, but this is a new role for her as a supervisor, and I certainly would want to, I think when there's a new leader, there's an opportunity to revisit the policies and procedures of the office, and I certainly would take advantage of that opportunity if I were in the position to do so, to sit down and talk to her about how her probation office works and offer any advice and support that I can provide. She certainly might need support during still a period of transition, I would suspect. But the clerk's office actually runs extremely well. Clerk Alston is a very good clerk. He took over a couple of years ago. He's made some changes that I applaud. I do think the judge is the leader in the courthouse, and I think a judge should keep an eye out for ways to improve. But that's certainly where I would start.
Have you had occasion to represent lawful gun owners charged with crimes relating to guns?
We don't have very many gun charges, but certainly we've had those types of cases in my office, absolutely.
the rights of the people of Massachusetts with respect to the Second Amendment.
Well, the Supreme Court has made it clear that the Second Amendment applies to the states. So the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have a fundamental right to bear arms, pursuant to the U.S. Constitution. That's the McDonald case.
I don't have any other questions in this nominee. I listened to his witnesses. I'm impressed with his background, his resume, and I appreciate it as many questions this morning.
Thank you, Counsel.
Objection, Counsel. I now request to be recognized. No objection, Counsel.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I did speak with your counsel, Counsel Albano, who speaks very highly of you. I did have occasion to speak with lawyers out in that area. I think you're an outstanding candidate, and when your name comes before the council, I'll be able to have your support.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Counsel, thank you very much. Counsel Jubinville is recognized.
Thank you. I think Matt Shea said that all the ones he lost to you.
I didn't want to mention that. It seemed a little like a cheap shot.
Well, you have a wonderful reputation that I know about from practicing law in the state, and I can leave you on that. And you know that motions to suppress are rare burdens when you win. And as a matter of fact, even trials, most of our work is frustrating because you really want to be in this business. Thankfully, it probably is that way. Otherwise, he is even bad innocent people. It doesn't usually work out. But you have an excellent reputation, and your experience comes through not only the applications that you file, but by people in the community. Council Albano spoke very happy of the West. Get AJ around them. They'll find both of them. You know the terrible epidemic of drugs in the country. Give me your thoughts on that. What do you think the role of district court judges is compared to that situation?
Well, I think when it comes to substance abuse and mental health issues, for that matter, in a way, as a public defender, what I've viewed that as is, in a way, it's an opportunity in that I can explain the illegal behavior. And if we could treat the fundamental problem, it's not that my client is a bad person, it's that he's addicted to heroin. And if we could treat the heroin addiction, we then can treat the criminal activity. And that's a sickness, and it can be treated. That's the good news. And as a judge, I certainly would have that would be in my thought process whenever I was sentencing someone who I suspected or knew had a drug addiction or a mental health problem.
Well, I've come full circle in my thinking of this issue since my cop days back in the early 70s. And since 1970, getting into the trade war on drugs, it has been a business failure. It hasn't made any headway taking care of the problems that we have with addiction. And to me, we're never going to arrest our way out of it. We're not going to arraign our way out of it. In my own opinion, my humble opinion, is somebody with a sickness or heroin addiction should never be prosecuted for heroin addiction. And we force people that have to have heroin at any cost to buy it from somebody in the street, rather than being able to walk into a public health facility without fear of arrest, losing their job, incarceration, losing their job. And maybe we will see a change in that philosophy. And there will be someone who's going to get forefront of the offices.
voting for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You have such fond memories of Western Massachusetts. Why did you leave? Milton.
Well, Councilor Albano, I felt the calling of the need for a governor's counselor from Milton. Having married a woman from this state, I ended up down here. But I want to go back.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Councilor Devaney recognized the question of the nominee.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again,
Thank you for
Councilor.
all the time you poured in me. I really enjoyed the time you spent with me. I'm concerned about the considerable discretion that judges have. I always ask.
I'm sorry, Councilor, I can't quite hear you.
Pardon?
I can't quite hear you over the...
Discretion, the considerable discretion that judges have.
Mhm.
And in your answer to them about that discretion, you wrote something that I've never seen. You've been sitting up for 15 years, and I just wanted you to, if you could embellish on that. You stated, as far as I am aware, there is very little hard data to support the idea that punishing one individual deters the actions of another.
You just want me to comment on that?
I wanted you to embellish, explain that, because I've never seen that in a questionnaire when a nominee is asking about their considerable discretion that a judge has, and I've never seen that comment, and I'd just like to hear more about it.
Well, it's an issue that I study because I would hear from prosecutors, particularly when I lived in Virginia, that deterrence is one of the reasons to sentence. That if we send this guy to jail, we're sending a message to the community. We're going to reduce crime overall. And so I researched it, and it turns out that there's very little, if any, hard data to suggest that by punishing this individual, that somebody the next town over who maybe is shoplifting at the CVS because he's addicted to heroin is somehow going to be deterred, probably because they don't know about that. But that's why I put that in there, because I researched it to rebut the argument that that we need to send a message to the community. It's not there's no data to support the idea that is a valid reason to sentence, and I think that we should. That sentencing ought to be based on data. It ought to be done for, verifiably good reasons.
I just want to follow up on my colleague, Councilor Jubinville, about drugs. And, I am pleased that you are, aware and involved and the addiction that is so epidemic. And I personally had my friend who was from Ireland. Her son, just a few months ago, overdosed on heroin. And I'm learning, because I didn't know the first time that you take heroin, you're addicted. So, so there has to be a better way to deal with people who are addicted. And I do want to mention that, you did apply in the past, and I'll go on record, political appointments given away sometimes of qualified people like you. And I do want to welcome Judge Ginsburg. I think this is the first time you've been back, isn't it? So thank you. You didn't have this beautiful room when you came. But, and I will listen to the tape. I'm pleased about, how often that you appear in court. That is important to me as well. When we met, we talked about a lot of things, and I asked you about lobby conference. So you want to publicly, to repeat what you had said to me in private about lobby conferences?
Certainly. Well, first of all, I guess I would say as a preamble, I would say my position on lobby conferences is not particularly nuanced, and it's only because when I came to Massachusetts in 2002, lobby conferences were going out of favor, I guess. And because of that, in Western Massachusetts, I probably only participated in about 3 lobby conferences in Superior Court, and never in District Court. I think that the tension that's balanced, if we were to really talk about lobby conferences, is the need that justice be transparent, because justice in a closed room is not justice, versus there are times when maybe something is so sensitive or so people are so upset that maybe going off the record for a minute or two would allow cooler heads to prevail and allow the parties to reach a compromise or solution. That said, I would not anticipate having lobby conferences very often, if at all, in the district court. It's a very busy practice. There's not a lot of time, but I certainly am not in a position to rule it out. I guess I can imagine a special situation where it would be appropriate to try to, as I said, maybe calm people down, let cooler heads prevail.
And when we talked about it, I told her I had concern about transparency, and if I was a client, I'd want to know what was being said, was truly said on my behalf, and how would you ensure that?
I left this out, and I remember this now. I think it's very important that that the substance of whatever occurs in a lobby conference is later put on the record. That the judge comes back out and says, and this is what happened in my experience, we were in the lobby, this is what we discussed, this is what the parties have now agreed to, or whatever it is, but to reflect what occurred in private because of this need for transparency. Absolutely.
And I do want to note that I personally like to see more criminal experience than civil. In my own personal views, and civil. I'm going to give you, this is not hypothetical, it's a real case that's being heard, and I want to know your opinion. This woman had a small little dog, and she was on her lawn. And man came by with 2 dogs, 2 German Shepherds, one on a leash and one loose. The German Shepherd that was loose went on the lawn and viciously attacked this little dog, so bad into her intestines and everything. And she survived the surgery. The cost of the surgery was $8,000. Now, legally, they consider a dog property. Isn't that true?
Yes. I mean, I haven't researched this, but yes, a dog would be property.
So,
certainly.
If you were making a decision and you were a judge, would you say they paid $200 for the dog, and that's what this man, the owner of the German Shepherd, should be responsible for, or is he responsible for $8,000 for the surgery for this dog?
Well, I guess the first thing I would do is research the issue. I'm sure that there are statutes and that there's case law that would guide me as a district court judge in making this determination. And is it possible? I mean, it's certainly possible that the limit on restitution is the value of the item, of the property itself. Certainly, if it weren't a dog, if it were a cell phone and somebody grabbed it and smashed it, the limit of the restitution is the value of the cell phone, not how much it would cost maybe to fix that particular cell phone. We're just going to give you the money to go buy a new cell phone. But I don't know if it's different when it comes to livestock or pets, where certainly society seems to recognize that there is more to having a dog or a horse or an animal than there is to owning an inanimate object. So I don't know the answer to your question, but I would imagine that there is law out there that would guide me as a district court judge, and I would make a decision. I would apply the facts to the law as it exists.
But it is real, so I just didn't make that up. When I met with you, I was very impressed with you're very calm, and I think if anyone going before you would feel that and would be at ease, and that you would be respectful to everyone working in court and everyone that appeared before you. Temperament and demeanor are just so important to me, and I see that in you, that you do have the correct temperament and demeanor, and you're very caring. And I came through when I met you, and seeing you when you introduced your wife and family, that was very heartfelt. So you are a caring person, and I think we don't talk about that enough, but that's very important, a very important quality in a judge. And that's one of the reasons I am marrying the governor's council, because of a judge that was disrespectful to my friend. And I have just talked about this recently after 15 years, the reason that I did run for this position, because of judges, and a particular judge. And my friend was in a very, I don't know what kind of a relationship, that he was very abusive, and I don't know why women stay, but she did. And she brought him to court a number of times for terminating. And the judge said to her, "You're wasting my time, and you're wasting this court," and really was so demeaning to her. And two weeks later, her boyfriend killed her. And so I want to know how the judges get the job. So that is very important that I saw that quality in you. And I'm very happy that you've been appointed. And as I said, sometimes politics gets in the way, and I thank you for persevering and for applying again. Because some people just go away and say, "It's a close shot," and you didn't. And I'll be very pleased to vote for you to answer.
I appreciate your sentiment. Thank you.
Councilor Cipollini has one follow-up question before I pass it up.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, you mentioned that when somebody's sentenced to a point, the data says that doesn't do anything. It doesn't prove the point. Can you share or tell me where you get that data? I'm very interested in that. Because I always feel, and I was a juvenile court magistrate, that if you show a child or somebody before, now it's 18 or 17, that there's consequences for their actions, that they're less likely to offend, or they can pick it up. Don't get whatever to do I guess about it. I don't understand. I'd like to know what you get. I'm very interested in reading this.
It's been a number of years. I certainly could research this again, but well, I guess what I would say though is I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I do think that punishing a particular individual can deter that individual's behavior in the future. Holding someone accountable for their actions is, in fact, I think, extremely important in the judicial system. And I believe that if memory serves, if the only time that deterrence works is if it's a sentence that is in such a small or close-knit community that the other people in the community know about it. So if you're sentencing a member of a gang, for example, and all the gang members are in the courtroom, that might well send a message to the rest of the gang members, or organized crime. It's this issue that people who are, particularly people who are addicted, who are committing crimes, in that moment they're not thinking about what they read in the paper or what maybe happened to their sister's friend.
But I'm talking more that first thing I do when I get take that times is I crack it open and look at the court reports. Before the obituary, before the cartoons, I look at that because that's one habit. I want to see if any of my former juvenile people graduated from district court. I don't want to see it in there. And they have graduated from district court, and they keep on graduating, they keep on reoffending. And I always use the example that, we'll get, like, say, these changes in the fall, and my wife goes shopping at the mall, go to Christmas shopping. I don't want one of these guys that reoffended just knocking my wife over the head for a pocketbook because they haven't been sentenced and they're committing a crime, basically. And I know that there are provisions, and we have to, we do try to give them probation, whatever it might be, and we give them continue out finding, take them under advisement, whatever it might be. But there has to be a time when we say, hey, you had a chance, we got to move on. We got to have consequences. So I know that I have a feeling that you do feel that the same as I do. But I would like to know where it says or where I can gather information that if you have, if you offend and you, other people aren't going to see a consequence there.
Well, it's the same reason I believe that mandatory minimums have really failed to win the war on drugs. What happened is we ended up incarcerating lots and lots of people for nonviolent drug offenses, and yet we haven't really cut back on drug addiction in this country. It's really for that same idea applies. I think you can hold, and the court should hold individuals accountable, and I certainly agree with you that there comes a time where you're out of chances. You're going to jail. There's just...
I'm talking about somebody with drugs. I'm talking, I know you said I'm being that 90% of the cases are drug-related. But I'm talking about something where this guy's out there, he sees a pocketbook, it's easy to knock it away. Just recently, in the Terrence 7 News, you see people just smashing people for no reason. Just hitting them over the head. I don't know if you watched the local news. It's unbelievable. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for it. There's not a reason for it. But I mean, for something like that, that's just going to have youngsters, I feel, do copycat crimes. Or, so somebody gets away with taking a pocketbook at the big mall and getting away with no consequence, they're going to, look at this guy, they do it. I got more money in here. No credit cards. So that's my feeling is that we have to have consequence early. Maybe one or two times, be careful, but then we have to start, banging at the apple, I guess we call it.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I do.
Good. Thank you.
The music is for the district attorney. Councilor Eileen Duff, Gloucester.
Thank you. I find you very compelling. I find your story very interesting and relatable for me personally. Do you speak the Chinese dialect?
I used to speak Mandarin.
I didn't live in China. I lived in Vietnam for a little while. And the experience of living in a country like that, particularly when I was there, and the United States didn't have relations, diplomatic relations with them, and eyewitnessing crimes against people from their own government it shaped me. It's something that never leaves you when you see something like that. And you really do understand, that flag and why we are so privileged to be Americans. I know you said Stony Brook outside of Charlotte. But where in Northern Virginia did you live?
When we first moved there, we lived in Vienna, and then we subsequently moved to Reston.
Okay. I lived in D.C., so I'm familiar with it quite well. In both UVA and Wilmington area grade schools. I figured when I saw both of them, I figured you must have been Virginia Reston. I really don't have any questions that aren't going to cover what folks have already talked about. I think, but to hear your story of your evolution of thought, I think is, for me, a very, very compelling thing, and really shows, I think for any of us, any person, no matter what we do, but if you open your mind enough to really listen to people and evolve, and just change and see and grow, I think it's a tremendous thing, and I think it certainly would make, it's a wonderful asset for anyone who is sitting on the bench to have. So I'm very pleased to support you.
Thank you very much, Councilor.